Hello, church. Bill Dole here in this corner down here in the bottom of this video. Thanks for listening to me today. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the pastoral succession process on behalf of the transition team, Tracy Shute, Dan Friesen, and I serve on. We want to just thank you for working with us, and elders and pastors. Things are going pretty good with this process. So let's get started. Why all this transition process stuff? Why can't we just hire a guy to preach and be done with all of it? Well, without a succession plan, we have less hope of success in appointing the next senior pastor. Many hours of study and discussion with experts tell us to plan for the next season of ministry at Laurelwood. We also plan to involve the whole congregation in the transition process by using surveys, focus groups, and other things. And by the way, thank you, church. About 150, maybe more than that, actually returned those surveys that we had you do online. Thank you very much for that. Knowing our church's DNA is vital in calling a new senior pastor to lead us into the next season of ministry. Now, research is the key to discovering and defining Laurelwood's DNA. We will use the results of the research that we've done and will do to create a church and senior pastor profile. These profiles will guide the creation of a job description and the interview screening phases in hopes of finding the best match. These profiles are just simple documents that have the salient mission and vision ideas listed on them. So when we do a pastor search, we can look at his characteristics and qualifications and match them to our church's needs so we can get the best fit for moving into the future with our senior pastor. That's why we're going to do that. Here's how this process looks in a graphic sense. You can see down here, I've got some arrows on that. So let's go to the next slide and take a look. Okay. So as you can see, we have the timeline on the bottom. Starting last year, we began the process, and we'll be working on this probably into midsummer, early fall. Mike will be our pastor for now until April sometime, and then the interim pastor will be taken over until we find a senior pastor, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. So first step here is to do the research. We've already mentioned the surveys. We're going to be developing some focus group questions. We'll probably have 4 to 6 focus groups. Thinking focus centers like worship team, or we might have the children's ministry, youth ministry, the men's ministry, women's ministry, office staff. We're going to have focus groups, and we're going to be asking some questions so we can better determine how our church functions and what our skills, and go deeper into that whole idea of DNA. After that's done, we have hired CB Northwest to help us, Conservative Baptist Northwest Association, and they're going to generate a report along this process. And we'll use those reports to share them with the staff and the team first, and then we'll share them with the congregation. After those things are done, we'll develop a church profile and a pastor profile. And I mentioned those earlier, how those are documents that show how we're wired as a church, our DNA, and what we need in a pastor to lead us into the next season of ministry. We'll also use those same profiles and reports to generate a job description, and we'll post that on the normal pastor posting websites and job sites and stuff. Once that's done, we'll be getting applications in. We'll be doing some screening and looking for the best match. We'll work that down to where we find a single solitaire guy, and then we're going to present him to the church. He'll come and candidate, preach at the pulpit, and then we'll vote on that and hire a new pastor. So that's kind of how the process is going to go. And as you can see, we're not real sure when it's going to end, thinking sort of midsummer, early fall. So let's go to some questions and see what do we have there. Why are Mike and Susan leaving? Well, for several years, Mike has been planning his retirement in the spring of 2021. Mike is retiring on his own schedule and under his own terms. There are no issues with Mike and Susan. We love them, and in fact, They have served this church with love and devotion for almost 25 years, and we wish them God's best. When are Mike and Susan leaving? Well, Mike's last day is on staff is about April 11th. They will continue to live in the area for a while until Susan's retirement. Will Mike and Susan attend Laurelwood after he retires? No, unfortunately, he won't. After discussing this with Mike and seeking counsel, the elders and the transition team believe it's better to let the new pastor assume the leadership without any unnecessary distractions. And this has been a question that's come up a couple of times. If you have more concerns about this, go ahead and talk to Mike and Susan or one of the transition teams or the elders about it. I think it's the best thing for our church to do this way. Is LBC forming a search committee? Yes, we are. It's called the Transition Team, and it's been meeting since March of 2020. So we've put together this process, and we are following what basically the church constitution calls out, and that's going to happen, the search committee, but we're doing more on that. We're adding some more pieces to that process to make it better. What is an intentional interim pastor, and why do we need one? Well, all successful pastoral transitions make use of an intentional interim pastor trained in leadership changes. The interim pastor is not the next senior pastor. It's important to understand that. He's just here for a short period of time. He has a specific set of goals and talents and skills that we're going to use. He helps guide the church through the transition process to installing the next senior pastor. Okay, some more questions. How can LBC afford two senior pastors, Mike and the interim? Well, the interim pastor will start part-time a few weeks prior to Mike leaving his position. Once Mike is gone, the interim will assume the duties of senior pastor until the new hire can be installed. And this may take 3 to 9 months. We just don't know until we get there. The unused portion of Mike's annual salary will be used to pay the interim pastor at no additional cost to Laurelwood. Does the church get to vote on the interim pastor? Unfortunately, no. You'll have to trust the elders, pastors, and the transition team to make that choice. Does the church get to vote on the new pastor? Well, absolutely yes. That's part of the church constitution. And once the interviews and screening are done, the top-ranking candidates or candidate will share with the congregation from the pulpit. And as the finalist, he'll be selected by a vote of the congregation. And then we can either accept or reject him at that time. When do you expect to install the new senior pastor? Sometime between June and September of 2021. Like I said, it just depends on the availability of capable and qualified candidates. So I hope this has answered some of your important questions. If not, come back to me and give me a call or an email, and myself or anybody on the transition team, Tracy or Dan, or any of the elders or pastors, they'll be glad to take your questions. And once we have those, we'll develop the answers for you. I want to thank the team, and I want to thank the leadership of Laurelwood for working with us on this process. And really thank you, church, for your prayers. We covet your prayers. We have a prayer team set up, and they have contacted those that are willing to pray regularly for our team's work and the future of Laurelwood. So nice talking to you. We'll come back later with some more information as we learn more about what we're going to be facing in the future. Thanks.